Hello, welcome back to Prosperity Pep Talks. This is actually my second attempt today. I tried a little bit ago and to do this live, and motherhood pulled me away. And now I am back. And if this is your first time joining me, welcome. I go live most days to offer a short transmission on sacred leadership and how to create a sanctuary in your business so that your work in the world can express itself more freely and be a force for love and healing and magic and liberation. I come from a lineage of spiritual leaders and female entrepreneurs. I've built my business as a devotional offering, and I love to help other healers and leaders and people who want to be in service to create sovereign wealth building movements and create a lifestyle that feels really nourishing to themselves, the people that they serve, in the planet. Today, I am excited to talk a little bit about what I actually had the benefit of receiving earlier that I'm going to be offering to you. I have the wonderful privilege of being part of a spiritual parenting mentorship group, like I'm receiving. And the person who is holding the space is an elder who's a Waldorf educator, which is a pedagogy that we love and utilize in our household. And we were talking about responding from a place of love in parenting. And I promise this is going to tie into sacred leadership and business. But the example was like, what does it look like to respond from a place of love and like true self alignment? You could say, this wasn't the terminology we were using, but like higher self, right? From your soul self. It's another way you could say it. What does it look like to respond from that place when you are dealing with a very defiant toddler who's perhaps very dysregulated, trying to assert control and power of the situation in a way that's just like not gonna work. And, like a tantrum. And like, how do we respond to that from a place of like love and soul self-alignment? And so we were talking about what that looks like. And I kind of had a little bit of a revelation in terms of sacred leadership from this, because the way that she was talking about it is like, well, when you have your little baby, you don't think like, oh, why are they being so defiant? You're just like loving them and in awe and wonder. And so holding that feeling through all phases of caring for a child is that nurturing, loving, just like you are just loving your child, right? That's not to be permissive. It's not to be not like considering the boundaries or holding boundaries, but it's just to be in that place of love. And I was realizing, a lot of sacred leaders, this is really common. I just did a post on this earlier today. A lot of sacred leaders are really confused, I think, or trying to navigate what it looks like to show up from a place of love while the earth and like the political landscape is up in flames. Like, what does it look like? And I've heard from some leaders who are like, well, I'm just love and light, and talking about what's happening or sharing my stance furthers division. Or I'm just love, and that's why I allow all people who even are on the side of, on the other side, right? Which I would say on like the side of the oppressor, but, on the other side of the political spectrum. That's why I welcome everybody of all different political ideologies. And I've had a hard time with that because of the tolerance paradox. It's like, if you tolerate intolerance, it perpetuates intolerance, which is why like we want to be tolerant to all different people, all different belief systems, all different ways of being, but not tolerant to intolerance. Like, so, and it's tricky. It's like, where's the line? It's hard to navigate. We also don't want to engage in hostility to people who are just trying their best and genuinely don't have all the information yet, are still on the journey of education and awakening, right? I myself have a hard time navigating what that feels like. But in this context of coming from that place of love, I was like, oh, this is amazing, because I think this is a really helpful way to talk about showing up from a place of love when things feel chaotic. Because whether it's like your child having a tantrum or a child having a tantrum, or like leaders or the world, like the landscape having a tantrum, feeling chaotic, the response is the same. We're not, when a lot of spiritual leaders are like, well, love and light, I'm not going to talk about it. They're essentially not engaging with the chaos, with the tantrum. And if that was in the context of parenting, you would just be like dismissing your child's feelings. You would perhaps even leave the room, right? Like, that's not good parenting. But so we expect, like in parenting, you know, we're like, oh, we're going to meet the child where they are. We're going to show up. We're going to love them. We're going to hold the boundaries. So if the political landscape is having this big moment of chaos, it's like a collective tantrum. If we're showing up in love and service, that doesn't mean that we're not directly engaging with what's happening. Like, we still have to directly engage with it. I'm thinking about what that direct engagement looks like. Like, we can still show up with love and understanding. We can show up with empathy. We can show up with, holding people through it in a way that's nurturing. But we still have to directly engage with it. And that includes naming what's going on, right? What's bothered me the most about the shifts and ebbs and flows in the spiritual industry and the leadership landscape in the past year or so has been people pretending like nothing's going on. That's the hardest part for me, is like, if you already post regularly and you have a like engaged following and you're showing up consistently, but then you pretend like nothing's happening or nothing's changing, you're not directly responding to what's unfolding, that's where I have a difficulty. And that doesn't mean that you have to make a big deal about it, that you have to make a lot of posts, that you have to directly respond to what's happening in a way that like stokes fear, or that you have to comment on every single world event. Like, that's not what it is. I think it's just naming the context, right? Like, just being like, yeah, I'm on this planet here with you too. I see what's going on too. And I feel this way about it. Like, that's it. You know, I don't think that I would expect anybody who's like a healer or a coach to have all the answers. But I do want to know that like you're in it with us. You know, that's kind of how I feel. And so what that looks like in responding is from love, the way that I'm seeing it and translating it from this group I was in this morning is like, being in direct relationship, not shying away from, not being intimidated by, not being permissive to the chaos that's unfolding. And also still responding with a nurturing, loving presence. I think that's something we can do. I think it's something I can do. I hope it's something I've been doing and will continue to do, but I think I can tap even more deeply into that nurturing, loving place. And I hope that I can inspire you to do the same, because obviously love is like such an antidote for what we're witnessing. And if you're somebody who's considering like what it looks like to show up indirect relationship and meeting the moment from a place of love, my initial offering and invitation for you would just be to name what's going on and name how you're orienting yourself around it, right? Like, what are the tools and practices, places of education that you're seeking out? Like, what's your personal experience like? Like, I think that that's helpful for people to hear. If you're somebody who carries medicine, why would the medicine not apply to the collective context? Of course it could. So teach us how to work through and work with it. That's a blessing for us, and it's a beautiful purpose for you in your soul's medicine and your soul's work. If you want more of a space in deepening in this, and you want support and showing up in your sacred leadership in a way that feels purposeful and ethical and in integrity and meets the moment and is also rooted in love, the Hearth is my temple for sacred leadership. And I actually have some live ceremonies coming up soon. The next one's this coming Wednesday. It's a new moon ceremony, and then we're going to be doing a series of temple initiations over the coming months, which I'm really excited about. It's like basically a mystery school, but for sacred leadership. It's going to be incredible. It's energetic embodiment initiations through 7 archetypes that I have created. There's a whole other Prosperity Pep Talk on the archetypes. If you want a little preview, you can go check that out. It's the 7 archetypes of sacred leadership. But the Hearth, hearthtemple.com. The link is in my bio, also in the show notes everywhere I post this. So I would love to invite you to check that out, to come in, to join me for the new moon ceremony. I've had previous transmissions in the Hearth specifically holding you through the process of figuring out what it looks like for you to show up in this particular moment in time in history, which feels quite unique. It is not unique, but like there is a certain quality to this time that is particularly volatile. And if you feel that and you want to respond to it in a way that's in integrity and honest and doesn't feel like you're in a fish out of water, or that you're like trying to do something that you're not like educated on, like this is the place where you're going to figure that out. And we do it in the Hearth. So there's already 2 workshops that go over that. And then we're going to do more of that in ceremony. And there's even more in the Hearth. It's like a course on creating, marketing, and scaling an offering. We have the archetype transmissions coming up, which is like a mystery school. We have daily devotional practices, which is like a challenge with ceremony strategy and content prompts. There's so much in there. It's all on the website, hearthtemple.com. So I'd love to invite you to check that out. And if you have any questions, or if you want to deepen in conversation, I would love to hear from you. You can send me a message on Instagram, Melanie Rose Monaco. You can send me an email, melanie@melaniemonaco.com. And I would love to be in conversation and connect with you. And I hope to see you soon for another Prosperity Pep Talk. As I said, I go live most days. So if you want to join me live, head to my Instagram, turn on notifications for when I go live. Otherwise, you can find all the replays on my Substack, YouTube, podcast, Sacred Healing and Enchantment, and my Instagram. All right, my loves, I will see you soon. Blessings to you, and may you lead from love in everything you do.